to share space with one another. I am pleased to introduce Kristin Meyer. Kristin is going to introduce herself, but I just wanted to say that it's been so great to be able to communicate with Kristin, to be able to have conversation. We had coffee while she was here. And so I really feel like I've created this wonderful relationship with this person. And I'm excited to have her come here and talk to us about her career, and the places that she's gone, and the places that she's going to. So that's also really, really exciting to be able to have that. So without further ado, let's welcome Kristin Meyer by unmuting and giving a round of applause.
Thanks, guys. Cool. Should I just take it away?
Yep, feel free.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so like I was just thinking actually as Michelle was introducing me that it's like really fitting that I'm here talking to both of these groups, because I actually started out as a BA acting major, and I just thought I was going to be an actress. I just knew I was going to be an actress, and I have to like take myself, I have to hide my own selfie, so I'm not. How do I do that?
Here, let me give you.
Where's that button? Who can tell me where that button is?
See if that helps.
Top right corner.
Top right corner.
It's really small.
It's not giving me the hide self. All right, well, I'm going to ignore myself. And I'm going to focus on all of you beautiful
Try it
people.
now.
Yeah. Oh, let's see now. Okay, let's see. Yes. Okay, hide self view. All right, I'm hidden, so you can pin me again. All right, so yeah, so I started out as a BA acting major, and I just knew that's what I was going to do with my life. And I wanted to do music theater, and I wanted to sing opera, and I wanted to act. And at some point, I was supposed to take a design class, and I think Kurt can kind of tell this story better than I can. But I approached him my junior year, and I was like, so I'm going to be a design major now, and I'm going to get my BFA in design. For sure, that's what I'm doing. I'm not even gonna ask. That's what we're doing now. And he was like, oh, okay, like we're gonna have to talk about this. And I was like, no, we're not gonna talk about it. This is what I'm doing. Sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty much true.
Yeah. And then I never looked back. But the other part of that is that while my degree is in scenic design for the theater, BFA, I have literally never once professionally designed a show in my whole career. I took my design major and I took my design degree and all those lovely, wonderful skills, and I used them to become a scenic artist. And so I just started off on the painting track, and I never stopped. And I've been doing that for about 15 years. And yeah, and I'm so thankful for that BFA skill set and all the BA skill sets, like all the acting skill sets and the directing skill sets and like all those other wonderful courses that I took while in the theater program, that gave me so much, like informed so much of what I wanted to do. So yeah, so I've been a scenic artist for 15 years. I have lived all over the country and the world. New Zealand, I lived for a year. I lived in New York City for 3 years as a freelancer. I was a charge artist full-time at an event design company in St. Louis for 2 years. And we did like those multi-million dollar weddings that you see that are just like crazy over the top. What else? I lived in Chattanooga for about 2 years, and I like did a lot of furniture refinishing and faux finishing. More recently, I have gotten into theme park work. So I've done, actually so lucky, I got to be on Star Wars Land in Disneyland, which was like just so exciting. And then I was in Japan actually working on Nintendo Land right when COVID hit. So yeah, I've just been sort of all over the country, all over the world, and just having like the time of my life with the scenic art. So like a couple of the things that I want to talk to you guys about today are the pivotal moments in my career. And they were all things that you would never expect would have really changed my life. The first pivotal moment came in my career when, after graduating, I moved to New Zealand, and I was drinking a lot of wine and living on a vineyard, and I was having the time of my life. And I went to a party one night, and I was talking to a random person that I met at the party, and I was like, you know, I just got this design degree. I feel like I should be using it. I'm not really sure what to do. And he said, well, I have a friend, I could give you his number. And he is, you know, he's big in the film world here in New Zealand. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll call him tomorrow. So I called him, and it turns out he was the head of Weta Workshop, Weta Workshop's miniatures department. And for anybody who doesn't know who Weta Workshop is, they did all the miniatures and CGI for all the Lord of the Rings movies, all the Hobbit movies, King Kong. So this guy was like a huge deal. Like he knew all these like really, really big names. And so I just randomly called him up, and I'm like, just like, you know, maybe 21, 22. And I'm like, hi, you know, and he said, oh, will you be in Wellington tomorrow? And I was like, yes, I will be in Wellington, even though I was like a 7-hour drive or like a 4-hour plane ride. And he was like, well, if you're in town, I'll show you around. I was like, yes, absolutely, I'll be in town. So I bought a plane ticket that night and just went and like toured the facility and ended up volunteering there, and through them got work on this huge fashion show called World of Wearable Art. I got to work on the Royal New Zealand Ballet. And I got a bunch of really great contacts and a lot of really great names that I could continue to, you know, rely on and use for communication and networking. But it all was because I went to a party and I was like, I don't think I'm doing what I should be doing, and I want to talk about it. And things came through. And then another pivotal moment in my career came when, let's see, what else did I do? I was breaking up with a boyfriend, and I was sort of heartbroken, and I went on Bumble BFF. And for anyone who doesn't know what Bumble BFF is, it's like where you meet friends on Bumble. So like I met a girl, and we started doing coffee dates every weekend, and she was a coach. And I just sort of fell in love with this idea of coaching, and I started reading books and like getting really excited about it. And so in the last couple of years, I've been transitioning into becoming a personal coach because of this random encounter, because I broke up with my boyfriend and it was hard and I needed a friend, and I reached out. So, so anyway, the point of all of that is really that I want you guys to know that, you know, it's not always about the direction you take. It's sometimes just about like random encounters and just putting yourself out there and being like, this is what I need in my life right now, and asking the world for it. And it kind of just happens. Like that's sort of how my career has developed, and the best things. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I could go through like my whole bio and everything, but I'm kind of hoping that we can have a dialogue around a lot of this. So like, is it possible to open this up and just like, I want to know what kind of questions you guys have. I'd almost kind of want to know like where y'all are in your own, you know, in your own careers. Like are you guys talking about going to like doing internships over the summer, like going and working at specific places? Like what's that? Who wants to talk first? Come on.
Okay. Well, while y'all are waiting to form some questions, you can also put the questions in the chat as well, so I can see the questions in the chat. It's so great, Kristin, to hear about some pivotal moments here. Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey when you were a student here, and kind of like what was the decision to move from BA acting to, did you see a show? Was it working with Professor Trout? Or yeah, talk to us a little bit about your journey here at Illinois Wesleyan.
Yeah, so that big head, so I started out, and when I did my audition, my first audition, I was asked, do you want to be a theater major or a vocal major? And I was like, well, I want to do both. And they were like, you have to pick one. So I chose theater, and thank God I did, because of all the wonderful things that happened since. But I chose theater, and then I was a BA acting major. And I just wasn't getting, once I was a BA acting major, like I loved acting, I was taking dance classes and I was doing all the stuff that you do as a BA, and I wasn't quite getting as like what I needed out of it. And I realized that there were things that I was missing and I wasn't sure what that was until I took, I don't know what class I took with you, Kurt, that made me think, man, this is what I want to do. But it was.
Would it have been fundamentals of design?
It was probably fundamentals of the design, yeah. And like the hands-on aspect of that, like all the drafting and all the like building little proppy things and like model building and all that, I was like, oh, this is so much fun. Like being creative, working with my hands, this is what I love. Yeah, that was probably it. And another thing that I just like vividly remember is there was a student who, that big head that sits outside of IWU, that happened, I think, my freshman or sophomore year. And I saw it being built and I was so jealous. I was like, I want to be a part of that. But I was still like not quite in the design program and like I didn't really know how to ask. And so I kind of watched it being built and being made. And I was like, oh, I really wish that I was like getting to, be hands-on with this. And yeah, that kind of like informed what I wanted to do, like the jealousy, the like, man, I want to be a part of that thing that I'm not a part of right now. And yeah, so yeah, I just sort of slowly transitioned into design. And then at some point I realized I was only a couple of credits away from my BFA. And that's when I was like, Kurt, this is what we're doing. we're just going to make this happen. Does that kind of answer your question, Michelle?
It does. So have you always been an artist? Like, had you always just had the skill set of art?
No, I had never picked up a paintbrush. Never. I mean, even in like elementary school, when you're like in art, like it was never my thing. I always felt like I don't know how to be an artist. I don't know what art really is. I never really understood it. Even to this day, I don't really consider myself an artist so much as a crafts person. And there's a distinction for me around that. And there's, you can make up your own, story in your head of like what you want to be and how you want to be it. But I really love the craft of scenic art. And there's a lot of people who love the design and the artistry of scenic art. But for me, it's about the craft. Yeah.
Cool. What was the first opportunity for you to explore that craft? What was the first opportunity where you were like, oh, damn, I really actually can paint?
Yeah. So I did, actually, I'm not sure. It's one of two situations. One was I did a design for the lab, and it was called The Brides. And I was like, I designed it and I put it all together and I said, here, Kurt, here it is now. And he was like, okay, now you have to go paint it. And I was like, oh no, what do you mean? That's not going to happen.
I said, oh, yes, it is.
He was like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we'll see. And it was all wood grain and gold leaf. And I made it happen. And I feel like that was probably the moment that I just never went back. But the other thing was that I did Kurt's internship over the summer, and that was an amazing summer because we got to work on the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I was with a woman named Jack Gibbs, who I don't know if any of you met her through any other things, but she is an amazing author and writer, and she's super, super talented and graduated a year before me. But we spent the entire summer in what is now Army's office, but the two of us together with like 3 drafting tables and Kurt and the computer, and I think there was like a little couch in there as well. Like you would not believe how much crap we had stuffed in that little room. And we had like drafting boards and, like all kinds of research boards and things like that, all like pegged up on the walls. And yeah, I just spent like the whole 2.5 months or whatever it was in there and really just fell in love with all of it. Yeah.
So any of you who have been in my office and have seen it and the scale, I used to be in Army's office.
Yeah.
That was with all my stuff. Yeah, it was, you had to move everything to do anything.
It was a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. So enough about me.
Oh, Sweet. So, well, are there any questions? Folks, just go ahead and unmute.
One from Katie.
Hi. So I was just about to ask about internships because I got really interested in that. I was wondering like how you found internships like in college, out of college, what your whole process for that was like.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, you know, people like me are a great resource. I don't know exactly what you want to go into internship wise, but all the people who have been guest speakers for you guys, use those people as resources. A couple of you and I have done like a little, like some sample networking. And I would encourage you guys to network with me outside of this. So now that we've done this, and hopefully you'll all get my email by the time this is over, or I'll put it in the chat. Email me, say, hey, it was so great to meet you. Here are 3 things I loved about what you were talking about. Here's what I'm excited about. I was wondering if you can give me some advice on where to find internships, where to find these things. So Katie, in this moment, I'm not going to give you a specific answer, but I will say that please connect with me and connect with other, you know, alums, connect with other people who have come to speak to you guys, because we are the resources. We are the people who know where you want to work. I've also given some of you guys advice on, you know, there's internships and there's apprenticeships out there. Some are better than others for networking, and some are better than others for like making a ton of money in the summer. So it really also depends on like what you're looking for and what you're really interested in, and where you want to be. Do you want to be somewhere where you can like be in New York in an hour and a half, or do you want to be somewhere where you can be out in the mountains hiking in 3 hours, or an hour, whatever. I live in Santa Fe now, and like I can see the mountains from here, and they're covered in snow, and so like that is amazing, just to be able to be somewhere where I can go snowshoe right after we have this conversation. So yeah.
Logan has a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Where in Chattanooga did you work?
That is a great question. So there's a, what is that? What is that? There's a community theater in Chattanooga that I did some acting with, and I did some designing with, not professionally, just for funsies.
Did you do it at the Chattanooga Theater Center?
Yeah.
I used to live in Chattanooga. That's why I was curious.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I used to work with Sarah Misiela.
Oh, I love her. She's who got me into theater. So.
Oh, really? Oh, that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
she is super talented. I was like,
Julie says hi.
Hi, Julie. Yeah, and then honestly, while I was in Chattanooga is kind of it was a little bit barren at the time. Now there's so much more like film work in Atlanta and a lot of stuff happening. But at the time there wasn't much. So I jumped on some random stuff. I did a Nationwide commercial, you know, those Nationwide with Peyton Manning commercials where he's like, Nationwide is on this. So I did a couple of those with Peyton Manning, which was really cool because he's really huge in real life. And I did one of those like design TV shows where they like spruce up the interior of a random like, you know, business or whatever that is. And then I did a lot of faux finishing in Chattanooga as well. So there's probably some businesses, Logan, that you've been in Chattanooga that that I've done the interiors for. Oh, and the Lookouts choo-choo train, if you lived in Chattanooga, I painted the Lookouts, the choo-choo train while I was there.
So cool.
But I really made my way. And this is another thing that I would encourage you guys to do. And I have actually a really good friend who is like the most resourceful person I know. And she will email random businesses and say, I want to do a mural on your wall.
Yeah.
This is how much I charge you. Here, I've already designed 3 designs. Do you want to see them? Can I do this for you? Or, you know, in whatever capacity you guys want to do, like design or acting or whatever the thing is, if you want to do it, just get out there and be like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it here. I'm going to talk to whoever. I'm going to make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really, really valuable to hear you say that, because
Yeah.
I'm certainly a person who really values individual thought, but collaborative perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love working with students who come to the table with something and then
Yeah.
don't mind it when their ideas shift and transform in community and in conversation with others.
Yeah.
And so it feels really, really good to hear you say that in a lot of ways your career has done just that. You've come in with this perspective, and
Right.
then over time the perspective has had an opportunity to shift, but it's done it in a very holistic, very organic way to for you to be here with us, and having come back to work on Stage Door for us. And so
Yeah.
I love to hear you say that and hear you talk
Mhm.
about that, because I want our students to really get that sense that you really cannot leave here going, tell me what to do.
No, no,
Yeah.
you really can't. And it's really about, and I mean, Eli and I have had this conversation. Hey, Eli, that, you know, it's about what you're passionate about. Like, I don't care what you guys are passionate about. If you don't love theater, then go do something else. But if you love theater, or if you love something about the artistic elements of theater, find a way to love that and to incorporate it in your life. And I think, you know, I think you'll be able to find ways to do it. Because for me, like, what I'm passionate about and what I've always been passionate about is traveling, getting my hands really dirty, and like moving in a fast-paced environment where I can just be like bang, bang, boom. And every time I've sort of asked the universe for that and been like, this is kind of what I want to do right now, but I don't know where to go. The universe in some way has been like, here's a bone, go that direction. And I'm like, great, following, you know? So yeah, whatever you guys are really interested in, whether it's lighting design, or, you know, like specifically like cutting, like making model making, you know, like cutting like little bits of paper and like gluing them together to make beautiful little things. I have friends that have design degrees and they're making Victorian dollhouses now, and that's all they're doing, you know, or who have degrees in design and they are spending their entire life. I'm going back to you, Eli, but I have a friend who his degree is he's an electrician, but now he's a board op, and all he does is program lighting boards for Broadway, for, you know, big projects. He was actually going to do the Olympics this year in Japan before everything got canceled. And that's all he does, is just like programming boards. But he loves it so much, and his degree really informed what he loved to do, and he just went after that passion. Yeah.
I think that really helps. I don't mean to monopolize the conversation,
Yeah, no.
but I'll say this. I think it really helps us reimagine what it is that success looks like. You know, like, what is success? I used to have, well, I guess I still have, used to have this colleague, and she came out of graduate school, and her first month out of graduate school, she landed a Broadway gig in an August Wilson play. I want to say it was Seven Guitars. I can't remember the play, but she landed a Broadway gig straight out of graduate school. And she was doing that run, and the run's really good. And she must have did that run for a year, maybe not quite a year.
Yeah.
But day 4, she was like, is this it? Is this success? Like, I did it. I mean, I made it to Broadway, but is this success? And she was like, I just didn't know what to do, Michelle. I was like, I'm doing it, but, and she was like, I knew my heart needed something else.
Yeah.
That I needed something else. So she went, while she was doing her Broadway gig, she was taking film school classes during the day at the Film Academy, learning how to be a film director. And then she would leave that gig to go to her gig on Broadway and do her show. And so now, you know, when that show ended, she said, I've got something else that's really, I want to be a film director. And she started making her own documentary films. And so I just think it's really interesting how we tend to measure success in these ways that are very, sometimes, not all the time, you know, some people get that Broadway gig and they're like, boom, I'm done. This is it for me. And I'm okay with that. But some other people, you know, decide, you know, there are other measures of success. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that if I talked about my personal experience, I'll be specifically talking to the designers in the house. And that is that you know, just because you have a design degree and just because you're a designer, it doesn't really mean anything unless you're actually in love with design. And there's so many other facets of design and other facets of our artistry that are like just as important and just as fulfilling, that I think, you know, we put a lot of weight on, you know, I want to be a BFA, or I want to be a, you know, like I have to be this specific thing and I have to go on this specific track in order to be fulfilled, in order to be important, or to be whatever that is. And I think, like for me, scenic art, that's all I ever wanted to do once I started. And I, you know, like I said, I never went back. So so find your passion. Don't just go after the degree or the field or the track that's like, oh yeah, this is what, you know, this is what I think I'm supposed to be doing. Do what's just like what feels good, what like makes you just like want to get up in the morning and go to work, you know?
Hey, Kristin,
Yeah.
you've made your way through a couple of our degrees, right?
Yeah.
Right, on your way out the door, and
Yeah, totally.
and now you've been back a couple of times as a guest artist, right?
Yeah.
In my class in May a year ago, and now
Yeah.
back with Stage Door, and you've had really solid, continuous work in your area of passion and interest.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could identify characteristics or traits or experiences or classes that you had here that have allowed you or helped you in that movement between and then into and through your career. What can you pinpoint specific modes of thought or practice that happened here that you use every day or helped you to make that journey?
Oh, I honestly don't know how to answer that question. I'm thinking back, and honestly, like every single course that I took was important in some way. Like, in fact, like when I started talking today, I was thinking about the fact that like I hated dancing because I was always really self-conscious in front of people, like moving my body and like getting into stuff. I hated dancing so much, but the physicality of that took me into scenic art and took me into like as a painter, there's been times when I've had to like get on my back, go through like a 3-inch gap, like up under something and like paint something sideways upside down, because that's the only way to reach it. But the audience, it's like front and center. So there's just so many things about, I mean, directing, like taking directing, I feel like I got so many good like leadership skills and confidence skills in, you know, like my decision is what's going to happen here and what I'm saying is going to go. And if I'm wrong, then I take the fall for the way that I'm manipulating this situation. And so as a charge artist, that has really like informed like being a leader and being like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. I'll take the blame when it's a total disaster. And let's see, acting, being communicative, like being a good communicator, being able to be, use diction when I talk so people can understand me, so that when we're on the fly and we're in a really like high heat situation, I can say what I mean and mean what I say and be there and present with my communication skills. What other courses are there? What else do we take? I mean, props, like I never did any, well, I did a couple of prop jobs outside of school, but like props, like working with materials that weren't just paint, that weren't just like liquid, has really informed like, what can we do to make this particular thing in scenic art? Oh, well, here's a thing that props uses. Here's a material that they use that we can bring over here, and I can utilize that in this different way to make it interesting. I hated, and I still don't like using power tools. Huge not fan of anything with sharp edges. But like when I have to build a jig in order to make straight lines with a brush attached on something, like I did a job where we literally had to cut pinstripes out of a squeegee, and we had to squeegee like 40-foot lengths of glitter paint. And we had to build jigs that could make a nice straight line along these 40-foot lengths in glitter paint with a squeegee. And so knowing how to use the power tools in order to make that jig, in order to create that thing. Yeah, I just cannot tell you how many times, like every single course and every single class and every single different experience. Oh my gosh, math. Holy cow. Even not as like even as a painter, like if any of you want to be painters, learn the properties of a 4, 5, 6 triangle and like how to make that work, because you will need that over and over and over again. And there's a lot of other geometry that like I can't even tell you how often I use it. So go back to that high school geometry and just make sure you've got it all up here. But yeah, absolutely. There has just been a little bit of so many different courses that I've taken that has really informed how I've moved through the world, for sure.
Great. We have another question here from Maddie Raver. Hi, Kristin. Having experience as a scenic artist for both places like Nintendo Land and the Santa Fe Opera, is there one type of job you prefer over the other? How are those processes different for you?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So places like, so Nintendo Land and like theme park world specifically is so fast paced. It is get it done as fast as possible. We almost don't care what it looks like. And then we're going to care in 3 days and we're going to yell at you for messing up. And then you're going to have to go back and fix it. The Santa Fe Opera is the opposite of that. It's here's something beautiful and watercolory, and we're going to give you 6 weeks to make it perfect and beautiful and amazing. And you're just going to spend all this time with the artistry of it. I personally prefer that fast pace of Nintendo Land because it's just get it done and like get dirty and like make it happen. That's me. But I have a couple of really good friends who like, they would never go to that kind of environment. And they are just so in love with that idea of like, just really getting into the art and the artistry and spending, you know, time like doing layers and building up paint. And so it's just really beautiful and has depth and is gorgeous. So yeah, for me personally, that Nintendo Land is like, that's where the money is, you know, especially because Nintendo Land was in Japan. So I got to be in Japan while I was doing that. But Santa Fe Opera, it's here in Santa Fe, and Santa Fe's gorgeous too. There's also a lot of good food. So it's kind of a toss up, really.
I have a more nuts and bolts question, but
Yeah.
you talked a little bit, you know, sort of like how you were able to get a job, but what's the process of actually getting a job?
Mhm.
Like, what do you like go to, you know, is there like an ads, like a area where you like go, like, it's like, so actors will sometimes use Backstage.
Yeah.
You know, so is there like that kind of sense when you do design technology, or for those who are
Yeah.
stage management, or those like, is there a place, a board that you go to for jobs, and
I
if you want a
believe,
job, then how
yeah.
do you do that?
There is a website, and you guys might know more about this than I do at this point. I think it's called offstagejobs.com. Is that right, Kurt?
Yep.
And so offstagejobs.com, they do a lot of postings. But over the years, and as I started networking, and this is another reason why I just say network, because if one of you, let's say, connects with me and says, can we just do like a coffee date via Zoom? Like, I'm really just want to ask you some questions. I'm curious. And if we happen to click, or, you know, you seem like a positive human who like wants to be involved in what I'm working on, and then I have a big project that comes up, I am more likely to ask one of you to help me with that project than I am to go on Offstage Jobs and look for random person X who has an amazing resume, but I've never met, so I have no idea if they're going to be crazy pants when they get on the job site. So there are places like Offstage Jobs. There are places, you know, I like when I first started out, I would cold email and cold call companies, or like, you know, HR people, whoever, and just say, who in your company that can I email? Because I'm really interested in, you know, doing, especially in New York, you know, like doing work for your company, or There's a lot of places in New York that are, just like they just need hands. So just to be able to get in and like meet people. So doing all that cold calling and emailing, but really network, because the more you're connected with people who can get you jobs, and the more that you show up and say, not only am I like decent at what I do, but I'm also positive and I work hard and I will get the job done for you, like in whatever way I have to. I am the first person to say I am not the best scenic artist in the world. I absolutely know. Kurt is like way better artist than I am, like 100%. I am not the best scenic artist in the world, but I have some amazing skills that I've learned, like some great techniques. I think I have a pretty good attitude. And those are the things that get me hired over and over again. Also, I'm really good at marble, not to brag or anything, but like.
I love that.
But yeah, just network really. And yeah, offstage jobs, like write that down for sure. But I don't really use things like that anymore, because it is all about networking and connecting with people that I've worked with in the past and saying, hi, I love working with you and I want to do it some more.
Good.
Yeah.
These are great questions. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, Joel. Because there's definitely more dialogue around like workers' abuse and safety and all that than there was even when I was in school. And for sure, protect yourselves and make sure you have the right safety equipment. And if anyone is ever like, get up on that ladder and I'm not going to tie it off to anything and it's really, really dangerous, you have every right to say, absolutely not. And you might get fired, who knows? But I guarantee you there will be people on that job site who will respect you for making that decision, and will hire you the next time because they'll be like, that person has integrity. Yeah.
Oh yeah, can you talk about that? I always preface this with this. So my best friend is an actress in New York,
Yeah.
and we were just talking about this yesterday, and she was saying, I've been the whistleblower. I've been a whistleblower, and you know what? I've been a whistleblower, and then I've gotten fired from jobs, and that's happened to me. She says, but my integrity matters so much that I do when I do it when I have to, when it's necessary to protect other people and to protect myself. And she says, so you know what? If I go into a job and I say, hey, this isn't right, somebody is taking advantage of somebody else, and they fired me for that, then that was the spot that I wasn't supposed to be in.
That's
and I move on to my next gig.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, I was wondering if you could, do you have any similar experiences to that?
Very honestly, I've been very well protected. But there have been times where I've said, I'm going to walk away. I need to go get gloves. And I've had people roll their eyes or, whatever. I don't want to point any fingers, but there's definitely in the older generations, there's like a male machismo culture of like, oh, I don't need that. Like, I'm cool. Like, I don't need gloves. I don't need to take care of myself. Like, do you see me having any health issues, whatever? I'm like, well, you don't know, but you could do. There is a woman, her name is Minona Rasal. She is in her late 80s at this point, but she is a chemical hygienist. I don't remember exactly what her title is, but she has made it her life's purpose to go around to theaters, to film sets, to job sites in our artistic community, and to teach people how to use best practices, whether that's keeping actors free from asbestos, or whether that's making sure that scenic artists have the proper gloves that they need, or like if lighting people are getting up in the rafters of some old abandoned building, that they have the proper equipment and all that. So for sure, protect yourselves. I have never walked off of a job site, but there have been times when I've said, okay, I need to talk to someone about this because I'm not doing that thing until somebody, checks this out. And I will say 99% of the time when I bring it up, people are like, oh crap. Like, when you bring it up to a person high enough up, they're like, oh crap, we can't put you up there. Or we can't let you do that or use that material because you don't have the proper safety equipment. but there might be that 1% of the time where they say, okay, you can go. And, you know, that is a personal choice, whether or not you can live with that and whether or not, you know, you feel safe or whatever. But I would say, you know, use your best judgment and be as safe as you can be. And I always feel better having said something than letting things slide. So.
Yeah, I had a friend, I just want to relate this, had a friend who was traveling, they were both in the theater, and one of them was a stage electrician, and they were flying from Orlando to Paris, associated with the Disney organization, and the electrician noticed a loose wire coming out of a light fixture on the plane, brought it to the attention of the stewardess who got the pilot involved. And he basically held the flight up for a couple of hours until they brought an electrician in and addressed the problem, right? So it's things like that happen. And you mentioned Minona Russell. I met her for the first time at the Santa Fe Opera.
Okay, yeah.
And where she was brought in as a guest artist to speak, and has been really strongly associated with United Scenic Artists, and literally wrote the book.
She did.
As you were saying, and safety practices. Yeah. Okay.
So if you're ever like confused or don't know what to do, like I definitely recommend looking her up, and there will be people that you can contact to be like, hi, this company, I don't know if this is safe, or like, if I don't know if this product is safe, what do I need to do? And like, if you look her up, like, I don't know if she's got a full website or whatever, but there will be people that you can contact who will say, that's a terrible idea. You should absolutely not do that. And you can get some advice and some help with that. So, yeah.
Kristin, can you put her name in the this person's name?
I hope I don't butcher the spelling, but I will try. Okay, double check that.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, is it dead on or?
I think it's Mona. And it might be EL at the end. Minona Russell.
ROSS.
EL.
Okay, all right. We're gonna try number 2. MONONA.
Oh, yes.
ROSSOL.
EL.
Oh no, I've got it up.
Oh, you got it?
Oh yeah. No.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
She's awesome.
Well, we're almost at the hour. Well, 15 minutes to the hour. And I always ask this of our guests. What do you think? Well, actually, no, I have 2 questions. So I'm gonna ask you at the end this other question that I want to ask, unless anybody else has any questions. But I'm gonna ask you this one. Talk to us a little bit about, I know you told us how you got into personal coaching, but what makes a scenic artist, a scenic painter who really enjoys fast-paced painting and really enjoys like that particular passion, that gets into the same kind of feeling, those same kind of feelings of into personal coaching?
Yeah, that's really interesting and a really good question. I don't know if I've thought too much about it yet. I think, so I love the fast pace of theme park work, specifically the works that I've done in theme park work. And I love working with apprentices. So that's another reason you guys should totally contact me, because I will like hook you up with whoever I can in whatever your chosen field is. So I love working with people who are just starting out in the industry, who are like, I don't know what the heck to do, my head's on backwards. And I'm like, oh, dude, you're cool. Like, look how strong and amazing you are. Look at all these cool skills that you have. You're better than me at X, Y, and Z. So let's like make that happen. And so coaching really has lent itself to that for me. And, you know, coaching is really about finding your fulfillment and finding your passion and living it, living whatever makes you the best you possible. And And for me, for 15 years, that's been scenic art, but I'm really realizing how much and how important it is for me to be a part of whatever the next generation is, and to really help the next generation, you guys or whoever, to find that thing that's your spark that really gets you going. Yeah, and I think because I've been living my passion for so long as well, I kind of understand that idea of fulfillment and being yeah, this is really, shit is awesome. And I want that for everybody, I want every single one of you to be able to be this is the thing that I really love doing. And so, yeah, I've become really passionate about sharing that and spreading that and taking it forward. So,
Yeah. What does I know I said I had another question, but that's okay. I had a last question, but don't worry, I'm gonna get to that last question. But what does a session look like? What does coaching actually look like? Do you coach students on their particular career path? Do you coach students who are interested in scenic painting, or do you coach, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, so I'm not a mentor, so I'm never going to give you advice. I mean, if you ask me for advice, I will give you advice. But if with my coaching hat taken off, but I'm not a mentor. I'm not going to say, here are the things you should do. Here is the path you should take. But as a coach, my job is to say, man, you love going outdoors, or you love being as high as you possibly can be and working on lights and just getting wild, getting crazy, being a monkey. So how do you want to bring that to your life? Do you want to bring that to your life by going out and hiking on the weekends and being an an accountant? Or do you love making money? You just want to be an accountant and just work at your desk all the time? So my job as a coach is to ask you questions and to be curious about what makes you tick and what makes you happy and what fulfills you. And in an average coaching session, we may not even get to all that. Sometimes it's, oh my God, I had the worst week. This has been awful. And we can just sit with that. And you can tell me why and, and how, and I'll be curious about it. And we might come up with, oh man, I was super triggered by this one thing. And that just started this downhill spiral. But at the moment that you realize you might have been triggered is the moment you're oh yeah, I feel like I can get out of this now. So there's a lot of really interesting tools and techniques in coaching to really discover why we are the way we are and what we want to do with that and how we want to be in the future. We talk about if any of you see therapists, therapy goes from takes you from a -10 to a 0. So if you really need some help in part of your life, it's going to take you from a -10 to a 0. But coaching is going to take you from a 0 to a 10. So whatever's going on in your life, it might still be hard, or it might be frustrating, or it might be therapy worthy, but we're not going to really focus on it. We're not going to go into the past. We're just going to be all right, how do we get from wherever this place is to rocket ship, making the most out of it that we can. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Any questions? Questions, y'all? Should I ask them? The BAs know I always ask this question.
Haley, I love your hair.
It is cute.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was my after stage door therapy.
That's great.
I love that. Okay. Well, I'll ask. What is your perspective, and what do you think? What would you tell students? What do you think? What would you tell students? And what is your, I'll say, what do you think? And what would you tell students about living a life in the creative arts?
I think there's a lot of stigma around theater and around the creative arts. I would say just the creative arts in general, of starving artists, of, people who, aren't going anywhere, or aren't filling their potential, or you pick your stigma. There are so many stigmas out there. And I think it is so much more than that, and it is so much more fulfilling than that. And when you have the drive and the desire to be more than that, I guarantee you will be. there's no doubt in my mind that anyone who wants to be more than the stigma will be. And that, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm living proof that you can take any design degree, any theater degree, and like make a full bodied career. I didn't actually say this during my whole thing, but like I own my house. I live in Santa Fe. I've been doing this for 15 years as a freelancer for the most part, except for when I had a 2 years as a charge artist at a full-time at a company. And I have never starved. I have never had to like, you know, scrimp for all that stuff. So I think there is a lot of stigma, but if you want it, you'll get it. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful final words. Well,
Yeah.
not final, just words that we'll leave in the space for now until the
Yeah.
next time we are blessed enough to be in company with you, Kristin. Everyone, please unmute and say thank you so much to Kristin.
Thank you guys.
You say thank you.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Kristin.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much.